everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric here with AJ in Austin, Texas. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, and how's it going, man?
Good, man. A little bit tired. We've had a long day. We actually spent the first half of the day downtown with Startup Accelerator. So like we've shared, we're members and we were accepted in the Capital Factory Accelerator, but there's a accelerator called Startup Bootcamp. And they've got a fintech, so financial technology vertical in Amsterdam. And long story short, this guy that runs this program kind of liked what we're up to and wanted to meet us and have us pitch. So we spent the first half of the day there. That's kind of an interesting experience. It's pretty cool. I got to hear about some other startups in our space doing some cool things, and actually another travel startup that was really cool. I thought the Comply was a really cool travel startup.
Yeah, basically, so like expense management for businesses, sort of like what Expensify does, but these guys seem to have a really cool approach and just much more streamlined, something that I think could really potentially take off.
Essentially what they do is they allow employees for companies to actually get some of the extra money that they save the company. So if the company says, hey, you're going to go to LA for this conference, you got $600 budget for a flight and $300 a night for a hotel or whatever it might be. If you book something below that, the employee actually gets to keep some of that, and also some pretty cool management stuff, making sure that employees aren't going crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. It kind of reminded me of the 30K guys because they had a whole bunch of plugins that basically work over the top of travel sites that you use anyway. So things like Expedia, Orbitz, Airbnb, and it tells you whether that particular website, whatever you're thinking about buying, whether that's in your policy or out of your policy.
So yeah, if you're like on Expedia looking at flights, there will be itineraries outlined in green that are within your policy. So if you find, and the guy's a pretty cool guy, but it's always cool to hear about different people, doing cool stuff in the space.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Other than that, it's also just been a really good and exciting week. The last week has been by far the biggest in terms of signups with the Abroaders app. We've had like over 500 new people in the last week and a half. So I think we've been running through a ton of credit card recommendations.
Yeah, we've been
travel planning.
We've definitely been hustling, man, helping a lot of people get their card rec sorted. I think this will be the first month that we get 1,000 new accounts in 1 month. So yeah. I think we're to get north of 1,000 new accounts. So that'll be pretty cool.
All right, so we've got news and updates for you guys. We are going to do take number 2 on Chase Ultimate Rewards. Huge apology for not getting you guys that episode last week. Just completely our fault. We tried this new idea. I'm like thinking about like the radio shows that I see, and they always have a separate mic for each person. They're in the same room. I was like, this is going to be so much better. AJ, you sit over there. You use that mic. I'll use this mic. Yeah. And we ended up like we were in a cave with
the audio just ended up being horrible. We thought it was a pretty good show, but ultimately you guys need to hear us. So sorry about that. Yeah. Well, Ben, let's get into news and updates. The first thing that we've got here is actually kind of a false report in an honest way. So I believe it was 1 Mile at a Time reported that Citi is no longer accepting the Hilton co-branded credit card applications. And that's kind of true because Hilton just jumped ship and they signed a deal with Amex.
Yeah, an exclusive deal. There's always these battles going on between the different banks in terms of being able to get the exclusive relationship or having the upper hand against the competition with their relationships with the most valuable loyalty programs. So Citi lost out on the bid this time around, and so now Hilton cards are going to be issued exclusively by Amex, which means technically the time has run out to apply for a Hilton card with Citi. However, there is still a link floating around, at least as of Monday when we're recording this. So we are going to post that link in the show notes. It's an opportunity to get a 50,000 point bonus. Normally, generally, I just wouldn't jump all over this. This is not a super exciting offer, but if you're already well over 524 and you're interested in getting some Hilton points, this is a good opportunity because this card is going to be gone pretty soon.
Yeah, we have no idea how much longer Lasso, jump on it while you got a chance.
Yep, and I guess the only other thing to note is that this is definitely one to just go after for the sign-up bonus, because the card is probably, all the existing card holders are most likely going to be transitioned over to a different product from Citi, which means it's not going to be a Hilton card. So if you want a card that earns Hilton miles with, or Hilton points with spend, this is not your long-term one.
Amex card gets launched and you can sign up for that.
Yep. All right, so next up we've got a real quick one, but this is definitely worth it. We may have mentioned this on a previous show, but Alaska is offering a 5,000 point bonus to folks who sign up and create a new mileage plan account and fly either with Virgin America or with Alaska between now and September 30th. So you need to create your account by July 31st, so the end of next month, but you have a few extra months to travel. So this is a no-brainer if you're already going to fly with Alaska. Alaska miles are super valuable, and you can get an extra bonus of $5,000 if you've got any flights with Alaska or Virgin America. So it's a really good thing. You don't have to book your flight after registration. So as long as you register before the 31st of July and fly after you register, but before the 30th of September, you're good to go. Free 5,000 Alaska miles, which is probably worth close to $100. So definitely worth doing that if you already have plans to travel with one of those airlines.
Alaska's a really cool program. There's actually another thing we're to get into in a minute. And the 1 Mile at a Time blog post, really, he does a great job of selling the program. It's not like he's necessarily trying to promote Alaska, but he really does point out, a lot of the sweet spots in the program and how they're unique.
Yeah. All right. So one more quick hitter on earning points. We've got a relatively targeted Amex offer. This is a good one. So I looked through all of our cards. We've got about 8 cards total that are with Amex that do have Amex offers. None of ours were targeted. So your mileage may vary here, but it's certainly worth logging in to check out. It's 2,000 bonus membership reward points for spending $50 with Amazon. And so that's like basically getting $40
a huge
back,
deal, yeah.
And that's at 2 cents per point, so that's a really good deal. Basically get some free stuff from Amazon if you're targeted for this.
Yeah, man, that's a good one. Next thing up, we've got American Airlines is going to roll out a new premium economy on their 777. And I was actually looking through the routes that they fly here, and we've actually flown a lot of these, like between the two of us. So
you're right, man.
Mainly from Dallas and from LA and from Miami to a lot of notable international destinations. So Buenos Aires, Frankfurt, Tokyo, Barcelona, Madrid, Paris, Rio, Santiago, and Sao Paulo. So I guess the key takeaway here is that there is going to be an option in between economy and business class for you that should be considerably better than economy. The one thing that I couldn't figure out, though, is it seems to be kind of murky as to how these are going to be priced as a mileage award.
Yeah, one thing Janelle pointed out is it looks like you can actually purchase with miles in regular economy and then pay for an upgrade using your just using cash at the time that you select your seats. So that could be a really good way. I'm not sure what the upgrade is. Probably going to be in the like $200 to $300 range, I would think. That'd be pretty attractive.
Yeah.
But maybe for a one-way each direction. But could be a great deal and a nice way to combine miles with a little bit of a cash copay to get a significantly better experience. I'm thinking about like the routes to Tokyo. That's a super long flight. So, there's definitely some situations where it could be well worth some extra cash. And I like to see that with the premium economy. They haven't done any like major shuffles with the award chart like British Airways did, where they just basically took the business class price and made it the premium economy price. So this looks like a good thing all around and should make it easier to get a more comfortable trip if you're willing to shell out a few extra dollars or some extra miles.
Yeah, man. Speaking of premium cabin space stuff, for any listeners that may happen to be in Singapore, this is a pretty good deal, right?
Yeah. So this is, it's a little bit restrictive in the sense that your travel has to start in Singapore. But Chris Flyer is offering 50% off redemptions on Silk Air. So Silk Air is kind of like the American Eagle or the United Express
more regional
to Singapore. So it's like their regional affiliate airline. But it is pretty nice. I would say like if you do this for premium class, it works for coach and for premium class. But it's not going to be like lay flat business class. These are mostly regional routes within Asia. The long haul versions of these would be like flights to different locations in Australia, which is a little bit longer. But 50% off is a really good deal. And the other thing is that Singapore eliminated fuel surcharges when they raised some of their award prices recently. So this makes it a pretty awesome deal. You can do this for one-way or round-trip Saver Level awards originating in Singapore. You need to book between today and July 11th, and this is for travel between July 1st and October 31st. So some good opportunities there. And if you're in Singapore, it could be a great option.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet you we've got a podcast listener there.
I think so.
Some other good news is with American Airlines, you can finally book Iberia, the Spanish airline. You can finally book Iberia awards on American Airlines website. So that's really nice. Before you could maybe see something on British Airways, but you got to call and do that whole thing, and that's just unpleasant. So this gives you an opportunity to book one extra airline directly through American's website, which is probably the best One World website as far as just usability and searching for flights and ultimately booking stuff.
Yeah, I like the interface with American. The one caveat here, at least as of today, it is not bookable if you use the little widget on the homepage. So if you want to do this, you want to go to the advanced search, and we'll toss a link direct to the advanced search, but it's pretty easy. Like if you use the widget on the homepage and you don't find what you're looking for, you're in the advanced search after that. But it's an important thing to know. I will play devil's advocate a little bit on this. I'm always happy to see things get easier and not have to make phone calls, but I'm a little bit worried. American is one of the biggest frequent flyer programs in terms of membership. There's over 100 million members worldwide in the Advantage program. And so this might not be the best for people that don't mind a little extra work. I have a feeling that we're going to see Iberia award availability really become more difficult to get because it's so easy to book.
That's a good point.
It's a double-edged sword, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Sometimes, I mean, it's great to see the technology improving, and if they just did this with all their partners, there'd be way more seats to go around. But the fact is, if you already were okay with a quick call to the American Airlines service center, or even better, if you wanted to hop on Skype and get a call with no hold times to the Sao Paulo, Brazil service center, you could usually get a lot of availability on Iberia. So it'll be interesting to see how this is affected. Yeah, we have. It's not an amazingly nice airline, but they do have some really good routes, especially if, in particular, I've done that a lot when flying from South America to Europe, because a lot of the other programs have these crappy, pricing where you have to transit through the U.S., which is a pain for going through immigration and stuff. Iberia can be super valuable, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this affects award availability. Okay, so we've got a couple of interesting stories in our random news section this week. The first one I wanted to run through with you is I finally found an article that explains to me why.
Man, this is like the $1 million question.
Have your phone on the airplane and why airplane mode is so important. And, I got to say, I've always been one of those people that I don't not turn my phone on airplane mode, but I'm certainly not in a hurry. I certainly don't always do it immediately when the door closes because, it always occurred, just seems to me like, how could this really have an impact? And this article is actually really interesting. It basically just says that the more people you have on the flight that have their phone out of airplane mode. First of all, your phone can't find any towers, and so it's searching at maximum power, which is 100 times more powerful than the signal for Wi-Fi. So it's a lot stronger signal. But the case that this guy's making, and he's a pilot, so the person who wrote this response is a pilot, and he says no, it's not going to bring the plane down, but there's just going to be this really annoying static that is, in the earphones of the air traffic controllers and the pilot.
And if you've ever heard any of the audio before, it's not exactly clear.
Yeah. Some of the ATC audio it's kind of hard to imagine how they can even understand each other in the first place. So a lot more respect for the rules now that I've read this. So we'll share the post if you're interested. There's also a kind of funny video that has people on a plane asking the flight attendant all the questions that go through your head as to why this rule has to be here. So if you guys are interested, I know this was one that I was really happy to find this article because I've been a doubter of those rules.
Yeah, man, me too. I was never really a believer about that, but I just kind of complied because why not? This next piece is something that I definitely recommend people read this and check out the link. So it's from 1 Mile at a Time, and the title is Flying Saudi During Ramadan. is fascinating.
Yeah. So first of all, I have a little bit of experience with Ramadan because I went to University of Michigan. There's a really big Muslim student population. And so they observe Ramadan, and there's all kinds of extra things that go on during that period of the year where, meals are being served at different times.
So a big thing about Ramadan is fasting from sunrise to sunset.
Exactly. So daylight, no food, no drink. That's the time that you don't do that.
And in the Northern Hemisphere, that's especially in Michigan, it's kind of bad timing because it stays light for longer, right?
It depends. So Ramadan moves. I could be wrong about this, but my understanding is that Ramadan moves throughout the calendar year. So every year it's not during the exact same time. And so it just depends. If you're lucky in Michigan and it happens in December, you've got such a short period of daylight.
I guess it's this year. It's end of May to end of June.
Right. So now it's dead summer, middle, longest daylight hours, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. But it never occurred to me how much of a pain this must be to travel during that period of time. Not only is just eating and all the other stuff, on an airplane, the service and all the logistics of that, it's got to be very complicated for flight attendants to manage and deal with this. But also think about the situation where you're flying with the sun. There's scenarios where if you don't really think about it and you book your flight at the wrong time and you want to observe this tradition, then you could possibly be in a spot where you have to fast for like 24 hours because, you take off during the day, you fly with the sun, you arrive, it's midday or early day, and you've got a whole bunch of time still that you can't eat.
It was interesting to me listening to him talk about the difference between the other Gulf carriers. So, Qatar, Emirates, where a lot of their passengers wouldn't be observing, but he said it was definitely different on his Saudia flight, and he seemed to be one of the only people not participating. But pretty interesting. Yeah, it's definitely worth a read if that seems interesting to you.
All right, so next up, we've got just a quick reminder about the Southwest Rewards 60K offers. There are currently 3 cards that have this. So you've got the Southwest Rewards, Rapid Rewards Plus, the Southwest Rapid Rewards Premier Personal, and the Premier version of the Business card. All of those are at 60K. We talked about this briefly last week. We will have links in the show notes if this is something you want to go after. But I got an interesting reader question this week, and so I wanted to bring up the trade-off here, because the deal with the Southwest Companion Pass is that if the time that you qualify for the Southwest Companion Pass, you get the rest of the current year and all of the next year. So if you qualify in January, you get almost 2 years of free companion ticket.
Right.
If you qualify now, you're only going to get the remainder of this year. And by the time you sign up for those cards, do your spend, depending on how fast you spend the $2,000 on each of the cards, it could be 2 more months down the line, and now you've only got 4 months left this year. So I would say the trade-off, this is one I wouldn't jump on right now, even though these are good offers, just because you're missing out on at least 6 months of having the companion pass if you do it now instead of January. But there's no guarantee that the sign-up bonuses are always going to count. They could announce in October or sometime close to the start of the year that
it's going to be 30K, and if it's 30K, then you're going to have a hell of a time.
Yeah, you're going to have to get all 3 cards if you can, which is going to be a challenge with the Chase application rule. So a little bit of a roll of the dice if you definitely have tons of travel with your companion for the rest of this year and a bunch next year. Definitely go for it. But if you want to take a little bit of a risk that the opportunity might not be there or it might not be quite as easy, the time to do it is definitely apply for the cards in October if you can, and hit the bonus in January so that you get those 110,000 points to post, earn your companion pass in January, and have it for all of 2018 and 2019.
Yeah. Man, this next thing, I'm excited that one of our listeners gave us a little bit of a shout out. So a while ago, we mentioned Minute Suites being one of the new perks of the Priority Pass, where you get a free hour and get some discounted stuff. So it's a pay by the minute or pay by the hour, actually. Little tiny room in a select airports now, I think Dallas, Atlanta. But long story short, Andrew, thank you so much for sending. He sent us a little review. He's got some pictures here. And to paraphrase from his email, he says the room's about 6.5 feet by 9 feet. He says he's 6'2", barely, but he did fit on what he puts as a bed in quotes. But so it seems like he was able to take a little bit of a break. He said ultimately it's a good place to take a nap, change clothes, charge your phone, just kind of extend a little bit of a wait. But yeah, man, the pictures look pretty interesting. He said the check-in process was relatively smooth. Said he did have a little bit of a bummer where the door wouldn't lock properly, so that's kind of annoying. But Andrew, thank you so much for giving us the feedback. This is kind of what I expected, which is that's nice. It's like this seems like a viable option if you got the priority pass to kill a little bit of time.
Yeah, and so just a reminder, if you have the priority pass, you get a free hour that's included, and then you pay for anything extra beyond that. So an hour is usually, I think, starting at like $50. So it's a pretty decent
I think
savings.
you get a special price with the priority pass. I want to say
yes, for the additional time,
you get a discount on the additional time. So.
So that's available at Atlanta for sure, and probably a couple of additional airports. Thank you very much, Andrew, for sharing your experience, and we're glad it worked out for you. All right, so we're going to get into court content in just a minute. We do have some other posts that we wanted to share. We're not going to get into detail, but if any of these sound interesting, we will have links in the show notes. We got an article on why you should always join a loyalty program before applying for your credit card. This has to do with accidentally having your points essentially post to a new account rather than your existing account. Your balances get split. Definitely something worth keeping in mind, and always good to register for programs when you have a chance so that you've got those frequent flyer accounts. Next up is Virgin Atlantic offering free gold and silver status match. So if you do have elite status with another frequent flyer program, this could be worth checking out. You might be able to match over to Virgin Atlantic. Next up, we've got earning bonus miles on a summer shopping portal through United. This is kind of in the same vein as the story we shared a couple of weeks ago with British Airways, where you can get some extra points. It's definitely not quite as lucrative as the BA one, but could be worth taking a look at if you are a little bit short of your next redemption for United. We've also got Alaska Mileage Plan offering double miles in economy on select partners. A really good resource from Drew from Travel is Free. We actually met up with Drew just about a week and a half ago.
He's a good guy. He's
great dude, man.
He's a really good guy in the space. He builds some like very thoughtful resources. Like his content.
He's notorious for good resources. Yeah. So he is behind all of the hotel maps. So he's got a page that basically has a map that has every single property for each hotel brand. So if you're looking, you've got Hilton points and you want to find out where the Hilton hotels, he's got a map for that organized by category. Anyways, this one is a new American Airlines award chart. Nothing really changed, but American's website has just gotten crappier and crappier as far as being able to figure out how many miles it's supposed to cost. So this is everything in one simple PDF. Definitely recommend you guys bookmark that. It's something that I've been using ever since I saw this post. And then last up, there is a transfer bonus of 25% from Amex to Hawaiian Airlines frequent flyer program. I would say this is probably not a great deal, only because Hawaiian miles haven't been very useful for saver level availability.
Yeah, it's frequent mileage, but it just, good luck finding availability.
But if you do, you can get 25% more Hawaiian miles from your Amex transfer. So if you're looking on a route that Hawaiian operates, give it a look, see if you might be able to save some points by transferring Amex to Hawaiian. All right, so before we do core content, we've got a booking success story from Janelle and the booking team. Okay, so I think this was kind of an interesting trip to share because it was one of those sort of logistical nightmares in terms of getting everybody to the same place at roughly the same time. So this is a trip for 4 people. This is going to be for Mike and Katie, made up names, and his mom and a friend of hers. And so the big thing here, this is a trip to Greece, right? So part of the travel is going to be starting on the West Coast in Oregon, Portland area, and the rest of the party is starting on the East Coast in Washington, D.C. Now, the original goal was to do this all in business class, and there were definitely enough points here. Pretty much everybody had around 100,000 Chase points. Probably a lot of them got in on the Sapphire Reserve card, picked up a bunch of points all at once, and then everybody had like 60 to 80,000 American miles, and Mom had a bunch of Alaska miles, about 200, to be able to make this work. And it turned out, so this was kind of one of those scenarios where somewhat limited time off during the week. The idea was to try and, take advantage of 2 weekends, get more or less 1 week off of work with maybe an extra day there. And I thought this was interesting just because it turned out that they decided to sort of sacrifice the business class option on the return trip just to get everybody there more around the same time and not have people, going to the airports
the time
and
together in Greece.
So it's a pretty frequent trade-off when you're dealing with travel where you've got a couple of different people, especially in business class. It's really rare to find find 4 or 5 seats on a business class flight, everybody on the same flight, or even different flights that are arriving roughly at the same time. So as we've talked about before, American Airlines points can be a little bit tricky to Europe. And the big reason for that is that their primary partner is British Airways, which has a ton of fuel surcharges. It's really expensive for both business and economy flights. So this ended up focusing quite a bit on Chase Ultimate Rewards to be able to get it done. And this is another situation where Janelle and team were able to combine a paid flight to get from Oregon over to DC and get everybody on the same flight. They got outbound in business class, ended up coming back in economy. So the price was 100,000 points per traveler. So that's 70K business and then 30K on the return, but really great savings. So the paid flights, including the business class, mom ended up saving about $4,300, and then Mike and Katie about $3,400. So that comes out to just over 4 cents per point and just under 4 cents per point. Pretty awesome deal. And I hope they have a great trip, because I really enjoyed Athens, man.
In total, you're talking about well over $10,000 there.
Yeah, between cost and airfare.
Mike, Katie, and mom. That's great, man. That's on my list, man. I'm like a fake Greek. Like my grandpa's Greek, but I don't really feel the Greek vibes for a lot of reasons. Man, but I want to go to Greece, man.
Key takeaways from Greece for me: food is absolutely amazing. I don't think you even have to like Greek food to like the food in Greece, because they really do a nice job there. And I mean, certainly if you're going to go, I'm sure these folks have plans to get out of Athens if they're going to be there for close to 2 weeks. But the islands, I mean, it's really reasonable to get there either on a ferry, or there's there's a bunch of options for relatively cheap flights to catch a couple of islands. But honestly, one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been, and just a great culture, man.
It seems just like a special part of the world.
It's like Spain, but a little bit more laid back, if you can imagine.
I can imagine
the Greeks don't show up on time, but it's awesome. So guys, I hope you guys have an awesome trip. Thanks for using the Abroaders booking service. If you have a flight challenge that you want us to help solve, send us an email. We will talk about it on the show, or even better, if you're ready to book, send in a booking request, and Janelle and the team will get it started for you.
Yeah, man. All right. You want to get into Chase?
All right. Second time's the charm?
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Right.
Hopefully we can put something together like we did last week, because I felt so good after that episode. I was like, man, we really hit on the key stuff. We didn't go on any crazy tangents. I think we did a good job of boxing it up.
All right, so it is time to talk Chase Ultimate Rewards. I'm really excited about this episode. We had a little bit of a false start last week, and the main reason that we wanted to get into this is I was looking through some of our booking data, and we have just seen people get a huge amount of value out of Chase Ultimate Rewards. The other thing is that because of Chase's application rules, it's the place where most people want to start with acquiring points. And so we wanted to break down some of the top programs that are transfer partners, explain how Chase points work and how you can get the most value. In the last year or so, we've had 46 award tickets using Chase Ultimate Rewards, a total of 2.3 million points transferred for a total savings of just under $100,000. So that means our total average is just over 4 cents per point, which is really good. It's in the top couple of different types of points that we have across all bookings. And the nice thing with Chase is that it's super versatile. If you actually expand that to take a look at the 7 airline programs that Chase Ultimate Rewards transfers to, we've actually had 154 tickets, $237,000 in savings, and just over 6 million points redeemed. So people are taking their hard-earned Chase points and exchanging them for a huge amount of savings. And so we want to talk to you guys about how you can do that yourself. On the earnings side, Ultimate Rewards make up nearly 30% of all the cards that we're tracking with the Abroaders app. We've now cleared 4,000 accounts, close to 5,000 people if you count folks that are earning together as companions. And so it's just like, it's a huge opportunity. Chase points transfer, as I said, to 7 frequent flyer programs. Those are the Ultimate Rewards partners, and that allows you to book flights with 94 different partner airlines.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on how you can leverage that. As far as earning points, going back to that for a quick refresher for everybody, the ways that you can earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points are through the following credit cards: the Chase Ink Biz Preferred, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and the Freedom Unlimited. Some of you may actually have cards, so like the Chase Ink Biz Plus.
Yeah, there's some legacy cards for sure.
Maybe you've still got those, but those current cards right there are ways that you can go after Chase Ultimate Rewards points. And one thing that we really should touch on is this whole 524 thing that a lot of people are familiar with, but some people may not completely understand what that means.
Yeah. So Chase is one of the places that you want to start with acquiring points because they're a little bit more restrictive than Citi, Amex, Barclays, the other major banks in the way that they allow people to sign up for new cards. So obviously all the banks are looking for long-term customers that are going to be valuable to them as well. And so they're trying to avoid people that are gaming the system. Now, I don't think what we do or what any of our listeners do is gaming the system. I think of it very honestly as getting their fair share of a huge amount of money that the banks and the airlines are making. However, Chase has some somewhat restrictive rules in place. If you have opened more than 4 cards in the last 2 years, you can't get approved for most of the Chase products that are out there, and none of the Chase Ultimate Rewards earning cards are available if you've opened more than 4 cards. So if you've got 4 cards, you can get 1 more. If you've got 5, you're going to have to wait until it's
over
been more than
a
2
rolling
years.
2-year thing.
One other thing I just wanted to mention. So you mentioned that there's a couple of other legacy cards that earn ultimate rewards. If you already have those cards, you can certainly still earn points with your everyday spend. But there is a little bit of an exception. We mentioned the Freedom Unlimited, which is a really awesome card. It has no annual fee and it earns 1.5 cents per point on every dollar spent. However, the Freedom Unlimited does not have the ability to transfer to these 7 airline transfer programs if you don't have any of the other premium cards. And so the reason I wanted to make sure we hammered that home is that if you're looking and you've just got 1 more Chase card that you can open and it's the Freedom Unlimited and you don't have the Ink Business Preferred, the Sapphire
you're
Reserve,
going to be stuck.
You're going to not be able to transfer your points and take advantage of the huge benefit of the airline transfer partners. So we're going to get into that in just a second, but let's talk about the easy way to redeem Chase points, the way that Chase wants you to redeem them.
Exactly. So let's take the Chase Sapphire Preferred, for example. Right now, they're offering 50,000 ultimate rewards after you hit the minimum spend. And they're touting that's $625 off of travel. So that works out to 1.25 cents per point.
Yep.
And to create reference against that, that's the easy way, just booking right through Chase. The stats that Eric was mentioning earlier, we're getting around 4 cents per point. So that is over 3 times the value of what Chase tells you that the points are worth booking right through Chase. One caveat is the reserve card is a little bit higher. That's 1.5, but still, if you transfer the points and put them to work, you can get 3-4 times the savings. So we just wanted to kind of create some context there that we're not going to say that's the coward's way out, but it's definitely an easier play.
And you're definitely going to get less value. The exception, the time that you want to do that is when there's no award availability. You've got tight travel window.
And if you have a bunch of points and you can just make it happen.
Yeah, and if you got a ton of points, it might not matter so much, but your points can be worth a lot more, and we're going to tell you how. So first of all, when you transfer Chase Ultimate Rewards, there's a couple of basic rules that you want to be aware of. So all of the airline programs are 1-to-1 transfer partners, which means 1 Chase Ultimate Reward equals 1 point in each of their partner frequent flyer programs. The points transfer instantly, which is really important because you want to wait until you've verified that the flights that you want, that there's award availability.
And this is different from some other points going to some different programs, which can be a little bit annoying.
Yeah. There's definitely some other like programs where you're just not going to see it. And actually, there is an exception here. I forgot about this. Singapore still takes between 12 and 24 hours. So Singapore is not an instant transfer partner, but the rest of them, when you move your points, they appear immediately in the other account. I got to double check Singapore, double check Korean Air as well. Mm-hmm. But the main ones, the ones that we're actually going to focus on today, transfer instantly. The other thing to know is that the transfers are one-way only, which is why I said you want to verify those seats are available before you make the transfer.
Ship in a bottle. If you send your Chase points to United or Air France, they're never going to come back and become Chase points again.
One nice extra piece of flexibility here, you can transfer your ultimate rewards to your own frequent flyer accounts, and you can also transfer them to those of your spouse or partner. And it also works out that you can transfer them to an authorized user on a business card account. So I've got a Chase Ink Plus one of the old cards that's no longer available to sign up for. AJ's got a copy of that for Broader's expenses. And it's nice because now if we need to top up your United balance or one of the other partners, we can transfer those over to you. So that's good to know if you're earning miles with a spouse or partner. Those Ultimate Rewards points can be combined, moved back and forth, and moved to either of your frequent flyer accounts.
Yeah, so as far as the programs that you can actually transfer your Chase Ultimate Rewards points to, we're going to go down the list real quick. So we've got British Airways Executive Club, Air France Flying Blue, Korean Air SkyPass, Singapore KrisFlyer, Southwest Rapid Rewards, United Mileage Plus, and Virgin Atlantic Flying Club.
All right. So next up, and this is a question that I get all the time is, okay, so there's all these options. How do I know which one to choose? Why would I want to pick one program over a different program? And so there's three main reasons here. Number one, the different award programs have different prices that are going to apply to your destination. So the price in miles might be different between one or more of these transfer partners. The second thing is the way that they evaluate the taxes and fees, fuel surcharges, basically the amount of cash that you have to pay out of pocket to book your award flight. That's going to be potentially different between different programs. And then the particular flights that you can book. And this comes down to the partners that are available with each of these programs. As we said, there's 94 unique airlines that you can book with. So that's the airline that you're able to travel on. And so all of those things influence which program you might want to move your points to.
Yeah, let's go over a few examples, kind of displaying how what 60 or 50 or 40,000 Chase points could get you. So if we're talking about traveling between the United States and Europe, and let's say you want to transfer your Chase points to United, that's going to be 60,000 points for the round trip. Now, let's say you want to transfer them to Air France, that's going to be 50,000 points for the round trip. And now let's say you wanted to transfer them to British Airways, that could potentially be 40,000 Chase points, but it could also be up to 85,000 Chase points because that is a distance-based award chart as opposed to the zone-based charts like Air France and United.
All right, so if your eyes are glazing over here, basically the core thing here is some of these programs price the amount of points that you need based on region. So US to Europe is always one price for United. Same idea with Air France. British Airways prices tickets based on how far you're actually flying, so how much ground you're covering. So the reason it can be from 40,000 Avios points to 85,000 in economy round trip would be if you're flying like Boston to Dublin or from JFK to Barcelona, which is a flight that we took, that's only going to be 20,000 points each direction or 40,000 points round trip. And that's because it's a short direct flight. However, if you're doing an itinerary like LAX to JFK to Madrid to Berlin, so, west coast of the US, making a couple of connections, that's where you're looking at as much as 85,000 points round trip in economy. So, and again, if you're flying from LA, connecting in New York, Madrid on the way to Berlin, and you use United miles, you're still going to pay the flat 60 because it's US to Europe. So that's where the points pricing can really make a difference. And it's important to know which program you're working with.
Yeah, so all right, we covered there the different prices in miles, but the next factor as far as making the evaluation where you want to transfer your points to is in real money, in cash. What are the out-of-pocket expenses going to be? And like you mentioned, programs have different rules about how they charge the taxes and fees. So do you want to run us through a couple examples? I think these are pretty good examples.
Yeah, I mean, this is a stark example, but this exists all the way through. So Virgin Atlantic has points that are quite a bit more valuable in the sense that their prices tend to be less from one region to another. So it actually costs 95,000 points for a business class trip, round trip from the East Coast to the United Kingdom. So to England, you're going to pay 95,000 points with Virgin Atlantic. Now, if you just look at that and compare to the price in miles with United, which is 140,000 points, it's a super easy choice. Oh, of course, I'm going to take Virgin Atlantic. The problem is that Virgin Atlantic is going to charge you $1,250 in taxes, fees, and fuel surcharges to book that ticket. So your free mileage ticket suddenly got really expensive. United's not perfect here, but the United ticket, you spend 140,000 points, you're going to spend just under $300 for the round trip. So that's a big savings.
Yeah, and in this situation, we've talked about this before, and I think we actually talked about this in the failed episode that we didn't launch is, I think a decent framework for thinking about how to choose your option there is, are you miles rich? Are you miles poor? Are you cash rich? Are you cash poor? So if you've got a bunch of frequent flyer miles and you're kind of running a little tight on cash, then, the 140K is easily the winner. However, if you don't have that many miles and it's no big deal to drop $1,200 on taxes and fees for a great business class flight, then that's probably where you're going to find your value.
Yeah,
and that's what it's ultimately all about.
All right, so next up, I want to talk about the third item that we brought up here, which is the ability to use your Chase points strategically to get access to flights on 94 different airlines. So the breakdown here, between the 7 transfer partners combined, you've got access to 31 airlines that are part of Star Alliance. That's all of Star Alliance. 13 airlines in oneworld, and 19 airlines in SkyTeam. And in addition, there are 31 independent airlines that partner with some of these other frequent flyer programs that Chase transfers to. Now, the way you want to think about this is when you start your search for an award ticket, you're looking at which airlines are offering seats at the saver level to their partner frequent flyer programs. And so a really good example here is Alaska Airlines. Alaska is partners with 3 of the frequent flyer programs that you can transfer Chase to. So that would be Air France Flying Blue, British Airways Executive Club, and Korean Air SkyPass. And so this is one of those opportunities where that arbitrage in terms of the price in points and the price in dollars, you can really win, because if you're flying from the West Coast to Europe, you don't want to transfer to British Airways because it's going to be maybe 85,000 points round trip. Right. You might use Air France where it's only 50,000 points round trip. So this is where it matters. Another example, just to take another one, Delta Airlines is an airline that you can book with 3 different transfer partner programs. So Virgin Atlantic points can be used to book on Delta, Korean, and Air France. All 3 of those can be used to book on Delta. So if you find available flights with Delta, you might want to take a look at those different programs and see how they're going to price your itinerary.
Yeah. One quick warning, a public service announcement is do not transfer your points until you can confirm there's a flight available. Just like Eric was saying, you find that flight that works, then you can transfer. Don't transfer and then hope you can find a flight.
All right, so we're going to break down sort of the top 5. As we said, there's 7. We're going to leave Virgin Atlantic and Korean out of this a little bit. We've got a couple of notes to share with them, but overall, those are kind of niche programs that are for really specific uses, really aspirational tickets. British Airways, Air France, Singapore, United, and Southwest are the bread and butter of your Chase Ultimate Rewards. Right. So we're going to break them down and just kind of talk about some of the pros and cons here. Starting out with British Airways, as we said, BA is distance-based. So their award chart, the more stops you make and the further you're flying geographically, so the actual number of miles you're covering on your flights, that's going to be what increases your costs. British Airways is partners with the Oneworld Alliance, and so you've got access to all 13 partner airlines with Oneworld. But the nice thing is that British Airways also has a really nice group of independent airlines that they partner with as well. I think there's about 11 or 12 independent partners with BA. Now, with our mileage bookings, and this is, I think, really, really telling of where the sweet spots in the award chart are, we've had 27 out of 32 bookings with British Airways points in economy. And that's because about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, we mentioned this earlier in the show, they basically swapped out.
They snuck in premium economy.
Yeah, there used to be economy, and then business class was double the price of economy. It was super easy. Well, now premium economy is double the price of economy, and business is triple. So British Airways is just really good for economy class, and as you get into business class, it can get really expensive. The other nice thing is if you do this right and you can avoid flying on British Airways operated flights that go through London, you can really do well on taxes and fees. So British Airways is kind of notorious. It gets badmouthed, and rightly so, because if you fly on BA operated flights, it's going to be a lot more expensive. But the average taxes and fees out of 32 bookings was $87.68. So that's a really reasonable out-of-pocket expense for an international flight.
Yeah. The next program we've got, another European carrier, is Air France Flying Blue. So as opposed to British Airways in that distance-based chart, where with British Airways, how far you literally fly is how many miles you'd have to spend, Air France has a zone-based chart. So that example, whether you're flying from New York to Paris or from Denver to Paris, it's going to be 50,000 round trip in economy. This is a SkyTeam, so it's part of the SkyTeam Alliance, so that would be Delta for people that want to reference an American airline or an airline based in the United States, that is. And very much like British Airways, we've booked a lot in economy with them. We've booked 25 itineraries with Air France. 21 of those have been in economy. And that's pretty similar, where Air France is not all that attractive on the premium cabin space stuff. They do have their Saver, or excuse me, not the Saver Awards, but their the promo.
Yes.
The promo awards.
That was something I wanted to definitely get to. I think that's the biggest opportunity with Air France. Now, first of all, Air France is just flat out better pricing to Europe, and a couple of other regions I think are in that category too, where they haven't caught up to United and American and Delta in terms of their pricing. So 50,000 round trip to Europe is pretty good.
Yeah, that's the Chase Sapphire Preferred card right there, man.
Yeah, exactly. One sign up and book your round trip flight. But the nice thing about Air France is they offer promo awards from specific locations. So usually they take, it's generally to anywhere in Europe, and they take a couple of specific cities and give either a 25% or a 50% discount that can sometimes be in business class.
Yeah.
Most of them are in economy, but there are occasionally 50% discounts where you're literally paying half price for business class.
But one good takeaway, and another thing to note, is that these are typically in the beginning of the month and there's limited space. So if you see a good deal, take it. But you can generally, if you're just willing to go somewhere from the U.S. to Europe and just explore a little bit, you can generally find a business class flight for under 50,000. I think like 46,750 or 48,750. It's under 50,000 points, which is a super good deal. But that's not the normal pricing they have for all of their cities.
Yep. So definitely check out promo awards. And by the way, they're not just from the U.S. So if you happen to be in South America and want to make a trip to Europe, there's often a city or two in South America.
They do a decent job of letting you pick the regions, whether the region you're heading to, the region you're coming from, and you can just find whatever deals they have to and from.
Some really good deals. All right. So next up is Singapore Airlines. Now, Singapore is one of my favorite airlines to fly. I had an amazing experience in Singapore first class. And we see a lot of people doing aspirational business and first class redemptions. I don't think I've ever seen a larger seat than I saw. I mean, Singapore, literally, Gabi and I were sitting next to each other in the same seat watching a movie together because it was big enough. It was like a couch. So there's some really good opportunities. And Singapore has pretty fair and reasonable pricing for one of the best premium cabins in the sky. So we see a lot of redemptions going with premium cabin on Singapore Airlines, but they also have a pretty reasonable Star Alliance award chart. So this is one of the airlines where Singapore, if you fly on one of the flights that's operated by Singapore, typically the award chart's a little bit cheaper. And so there's also some kind of cool Fifth Freedom routes with Singapore Airlines. They've got a Houston to Manchester flight that I think continues on to Singapore. So that's a really good one if you're in the southeastern U.S. And you want to get to Europe.
Do they still do Sao Paulo to Barcelona?
No, they canceled it.
I know they canceled it, but I didn't know how much longer that was going to go on.
I was devastated to see that one go down. I mean, that's a little dramatic, but I was so sad because that was a great deal. But they have some cool Fifth Freedom routes where you can actually get access to a really nice premium cabin flight on Singapore that isn't flying through Singapore. So that can be pretty cool. The other thing, so they're part of Star Alliance. It's the biggest alliance. So the partners overlap a lot with United. And so this is another one of those spots. We're going to get to United next, but another spot where there's a nice head-to-head comparison. And depending on where you're going, where you're flying from, you may find slightly better pricing with Singapore or slightly better with United. So those are two to compare head-to-head when you're doing an evaluation of how to use your Chase Ultimate Rewards points. As I said before, Singapore is one of the ones that doesn't have instant transfer. So the one downside with Singapore is that if there's only one or two seats left, there's a chance that in that 12 to 24 hours while you're waiting for those points to post, somebody else could book that ticket. It's something where I know, if you have a lot of Chase Ultimate Rewards, I tend to proactively transfer Singapore, especially for economy where it's not going to be that big a deal. If I can't use them, I'll use them another time. But, it can be a little bit stressful if you're waiting that 12 hours and just refreshing your award wallet account, waiting for those guys to post. But that said, I don't think we've ever had any real tragedies with the booking service, and I haven't had any big issues there. So typically, if you really are concerned about losing the availability, Expert Flyer has the ability where you can actually see how many award seats are available. So you can see, there's actually 5 of them. I only need 2. It should be okay. So that's a good way to gauge as well.
Talking about Singapore, Star Alliance, the next one up is United. Like we said, Star Alliance, that's a zone-based chart, so that's the same as Air France, where region to region will have a just one price. Really generous routing rules, which is an important thing. So
we featured those in our pitch today.
Yeah, in our pitch for the Startup Bootcamp. Yeah, stopovers and open jaws. So, I mean, you want to give us a quick example? I think Europe's a good one to do.
Europe's
this,
great. So
stopover example.
United got some flack because they eliminated what used to be by far the most generous,
the around the world
generous
award.
Around the world. So if you were listening to this show back like 2.5 years ago, AJ and I took a trip where we went from Detroit to Munich. We stopped in Munich, and then we continued on to Bangkok and flew home from Vietnam. And so that used to be the way that United allowed you to do stopovers and open jaws. They made a change to that last year, but it's not that bad, especially since most people don't want to book that kind of crazy ass trip.
Yeah, you need a little bit of time to actually.
Yeah, you might want to appreciate the places before you move on. So United, as long as you stay within the same region, so Europe, for example, you can book a trip that has a stopover and an open jaw. And so what that means from a practical standpoint is you can go from, let's say, San Francisco to London, make that your destination, take the train or a short, cheap paid flight that you buy to Paris. That is your open jaw. So you have to travel without flying on the same ticket for that open jaw. And then from Paris, you can go to Barcelona, have a stopover, and continue on home. So basically, the way United's routing rules work, within any region that's your destination, you can see 3 cities if you maximize this benefit. And that is a really powerful thing. It can just, especially if you're comparing to paid tickets, I've seen so many situations where a round trip to Paris costs $800, but a trip that stops in Paris, London, and Barcelona is going to cost like $1,400. So you can
easily,
get really, really good value. And that's probably the first thing that I would say to look at with United. If you've got Chase Ultimate Rewards, United is probably my favorite program just because of simplicity. It's an instant transfer. The pricing is pretty reasonable, especially for economy, but business and first class is not so bad either. And those routing rules truly allow you to add some really nice benefits on.
Yeah, you can book most awards online. Like you said, good pricing all around. We've booked 64 tickets with United, about 60% in economy, 40% in business class, and like you said, low taxes and fees, under $60.
Yeah, that's I think one of the leaders across all programs for tickets. So the average out-of-pocket cost when you use United Miles is $58. That includes some one-ways. Typically, the taxes and fees are going to be lower if it's one-way travel. But I think with a round trip, you're pretty safely going to be able to keep it under $120 if you're, unless you're traveling like through London that has really high taxes. But you can't do anything about the taxes. It's the extra fees, the fuel surcharges, and things that really make programs potentially more expensive. And United so far has been really good on that front, and so they're one of my favorite programs. And then lastly, the other thing that I really like with United is that they have had historically have had better award availability at the saver level by a long shot than American and Delta as far as your U.S. programs. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know is that if you have the United Mileage Plus Explorer card, you get better award availability. They give you extra flights that have the saver level.
So essentially, if you're not logged into your account, you're going to see potentially different award inventory, fewer options than if you are actually logged in.
And honestly, I actually was having a conversation with somebody in our Slack community the other day. They were asking about, hey, should I keep the United Explorer card? Like it's $95 fee. Is it worth it? And the answer to that really depends on if you're going to be using United Miles or Chase Transfer to United, because it can truly be the difference between a 12-hour stopover and a direct flight. Yeah. Because, if you don't have the saver availability, you might just get stranded in some crappy airport for a long time. So that's a really nice benefit. If you already have one of the Mileage Plus Explorer, the business or the personal card, I think it's worth keeping and paying that $95 fee. And also, they're really good at waiving it. So if you have the card, you kind of don't want to pay the fee, give Chase a call and see if they'll waive it for you. Because in my experience, they've been pretty good. I think I'm like 4 for 5 in the last 5 years with that card. So, okay. Last up, we've got Southwest. Now, Southwest is really easy, but it's worth discussing because Southwest, so first of all, their pricing system is based on the price in cash for the ticket. So in other words, a $200 paid airfare is going to cost half as much as a $400 paid airfare in points with Southwest. So it's really simple. It means there's not really the same level of arbitrage opportunities. You're going to get roughly 6-point 1.65 cents per point when booking with Southwest. But the benefits are huge with Southwest because number one, free cancellations on award tickets.
Yeah, that's
you
pretty
literally a half an hour before your flight can decide you're not going to go and just cancel it online. It's easy. You don't have to call anybody. I've done that like 4 or 5 times. So it's one of the things that I really hope Southwest hold the line on that because it's just really nice. If you do domestic travel, no checked bag fees. That's always nice. They've got limited international destinations, so I think the drawback
Mexico,
there is
the Caribbean is kind of their stretch. Not quite yet to South America, definitely not to Europe.
But the trade-off here, I mean, most of the time you're probably going to be comparing using Southwest with using another program on either United or Delta. Maybe so. Like we said, Chase points have access to all 3 major airlines because they've got Air France has access to Delta flights.
Right.
British Airways has access to American flights, and Singapore and United have access to United points. So if you're looking at a domestic trip, a lot of times Southwest is going to win if the flights are relatively cheap and Southwest serves the destination, especially after you factor in the checked bag fees and stuff like that. It can be a really good deal. So don't overlook Southwest. Again, we're not seeing 4 cents per point. It's going to be a flat
but like you
1.6.
said, don't look at 1.65 cents per point and say, there's no value there, because ultimately, if the flight is cheaper, it's going to cost you fewer points. So you could ultimately get from point A to point B for fewer Chase points, even if the redemption rate isn't all that sexy, just because it's a cheaper flight.
Yep. The one last thing that I would say about Southwest, and somebody brought this up to me recently, if you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, you're comparing getting 1.5 cents per point by just booking through Chase Ultimate Rewards and using your points as cash. And so that actually can be about an even trade-off with transferring to Southwest because you're going to earn points with that flight. So if it's let's say it's a $100 flight, you transfer your Chase points to Southwest, you can book them that way. But if you buy the ticket through Chase Ultimate Rewards, you're going to earn some points on the Southwest. So it often will roughly even out. But the one thing to keep in mind is that flexibility of canceling. If you have a paid ticket with Southwest, you can cancel it, but you have to use it within a year. They just basically give you a voucher or credit that you can use within a year. If you cancel a mileage ticket with Southwest, you just keep the points and it's like it never happened.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Again, we did skip out on the details with Virgin Atlantic and Korean. Virgin's independent. They've got some interesting partners. We are working on a resource that we're going to have posted at some point. No promises. It's been pretty crazy recently, but we've got a resource that organizes all of the Chase transfer partners and tries to help you kind of figure out, based on which region you want to travel to, what your best options are. I would say with Korean, if you're really interested in an amazingly good business or first class on flights to Asia, that's a program to definitely take a look at, but this is probably a topic for a full show. Virgin Atlantic, again, really high taxes and fees, but sometimes the award availability can be good, and lots of people book business and first class flights. If spending $500 to $1,000 in cash isn't a big deal, if you're getting a really nice first class product, that's a program you should take a look at as well. But yeah, we'll have to jump into that on a future episode.
Yeah, check out show notes at brothers.com/179. That is brothers.com/179.
All right, everybody. Thanks very much for being with us.
Hey, Brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Eric or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.